All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of our live GMP feature. There is so much material that we can cover and that we will cover during this 21-day course of education, I guess. I had thought about getting into the individual pieces of GMP today, and I opted instead to talk a little bit about roles and responsibilities. Because within the natural health product regulations and within the cosmetic regulations, there's several different roles that are filled, and these roles really affect the responsibilities that are attached to each of them, which right now very likely, if your business is new and just getting started and just getting off the ground, likely all of those roles are filled by you. Therefore, all of those responsibilities are also yours. But as you move forward and your business grows and changes and evolves, you may have employees and people that contract to you and work for you in certain capacities, and you really need to be cognizant of what those roles are and what the responsibilities are, so you can effectively lay out the tasks and expectations of your employees, in terms of, this is your role, this is what your job is, and this is what the expectation is. So I thought today, before we get really in depth into each of the various sections of GMP, we would talk about the roles and the responsibilities attached to each role. So there are 5 main roles within good manufacturing practices, and they are manufacturing, packaging, labeling, importing, and distributing. So those 5 roles may be filled by one person, or they may be filled by multiple people. Now, attached to those, there's various sections of the natural health regulations that each of those roles is responsible for. And there's a really handy chart, actually, that Health Canada has put out, and I will share it into the group as soon as I'm finished this live, so you guys have access to it, just for your own notes and records. But basically, it gets into prohibition. So what prohibition really means within, the natural health regulations and the cosmetic regulations is that prohibition means that you are not legally able to sell or to distribute a certain product. And so it gets into only products that have a license number associated, so a cosmetic notification number or an NPN. Only those products are legally allowed to be put up for sale, donated, distributed in any way, shape, or form. Now, the thing about the roles in terms of who's responsible for them is that some of the things, like prohibition, it's equal responsibility across all roles. So manufacturing, packaging, labeling, importing, and distributing is all responsible for prohibition. So if somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, here you go, and you own a store, let's say, and somebody brings a product into you and says, here you go, I want to sell this in your store. Well, that person is now a distributor for that product, and it is their responsibility legally, within the laws of Canada, within the bylaws of Health Canada, to ensure that that product has a license number associated. So I know currently in the Canadian market, we see a lot of natural health products being sold, a lot of aromatherapy rollers, a lot of soaps, a lot of lotions and creams, and it's just a whole gamut of information, right down to bath salts. And a lot of these things are not properly licensed. And so I'm just going to move my computer a little because I got some really bright sun coming in these windows. Okay, that's a little better. So without the proper license number, a store can't legally sell your product. And so it's their responsibility as a distributor to know that and to not sell it. It is also the responsibility of, obviously, the person manufacturing it. But if you hired that out and you did like a contract manufacturing agreement, let's say, your contract manufacturer who's making your product and packaging it and labeling it and getting it back to you, they need to ensure that you have a license number in place before they can legally, allowably do that. So it does get quite complicated when you cross over in different roles. And I'm just going to turn my comments on. Sorry, I didn't realize they were turned on, and I want to make sure that you guys are able to comment and we are able to chat if you're live watching this. It's always a little bit challenging doing a live because it's hard to manage comments and viewers and, you know, focus on the information that you're trying to present. Okay, so needless to say, the roles are filled equally across various sections of the natural health regulations and the cosmetic regulations in Canada. Then we move on to specifications. So specifications outline exactly the detail of the product. So what goes into it, how is it made, and it gets into the nitty-gritty details, the process of it, the percentages of various ingredients, you know, where the suppliers are from, everything is covered within specifications. So manufacturing, packaging, importing, and distributing are all equally responsible. So the only one that doesn't have a part to play in that is labeling. Now, your distributor, I'm just going back to the distributor because more often than not, as a small business, we cover all the other roles, right? Like we do the manufacturing, we package it ourselves, we label it ourselves, and we ship it off to whoever is selling it and retailing it for us. But the problem with that is that the distributor most likely has no experience with the natural health regulations and the cosmetic regulations of Health Canada, and they are setting themselves up for potential disaster if they are not following these regulations. They can be fined, they can have stop sale orders put on, they can have their stores closed. Like the list is endless of what could potentially happen if, you know, the regulations and the laws aren't followed. So I believe, you know, from a moral standpoint, it's our responsibility as manufacturers and as the owners of businesses to be informative and share that information with our distributors and to explain to them what their roles and responsibilities are. And in fact, I myself have written up like a template letter explaining to my retail vendors, you know, what their responsibilities are in this. And I also have a shared record keeping system with them. So we are always on the same page in terms of record keeping, in terms of having product numbers, in terms of expiry dates. If ever there was a product recall, we would be, you know, easy in, easy out because it's all on the same page and we have all the same information. So as business owners, it's really our responsibility to be, you know, transparent with our distributors and inform them that these are their responsibilities and here's what the expectation is, and to set that up well so that everybody is going into this on equal footing and is not putting themselves and their businesses at risk. So then we move on to premises. So the premises really gets, and again, these are all different pieces of the good manufacturing practices. Oh, I'm just missing something here. This is all pieces of the good manufacturing practices that we will dig into in depth each section. So like your prohibition, specifications, premises, those are all different sections of the regulations and the act that we will kind of unwrap and dig into and learn more about. But for today, we're just going to talk about the roles and responsibilities. So the responsibilities in terms of the premises are equally split as well between all 5 different roles. So your manufacturing, packaging, labeling, importing, and distributing. And again, the premises is, it's about where it's manufactured, it's about where it's labeled, it's about where it's stored, it's about where it's sold, all of those things. And so we need to do effective record keeping so that we can present the data to Health Canada if ever we're asked. Now, again, back to distributors, because they're really the only link in the chain that doesn't always end up in the lap of, you know, the business owner in the beginning of a small business. But those distributors, they have no idea that they're supposed to be doing record keeping on their premises. You know, they need to have in and out records of who is in proximity, you know, to the product. They need to have storage records of how the product is being stored. If it's humidity sensitive, it needs to have recordings of what the humidity is and the temperature is. If it's supposed to be stored in the dark, you know, was it stored in the dark? We have to have records of this. And those responsibilities all fall to the distributor as well in terms of the roles and responsibilities as laid out by Health Canada. So, you know, the list goes on, like equipment, again, that's another one. and that one's manufacturing, packaging, labeling, and importing. That one's not so much distributing, because with distributing, there's really no equipment necessary. But it is split across 4 of the 5 roles. And so I think it's really imperative that we, I will share this chart. It's super useful. And then you can have it with you as we're going through these daily lives, and kind of get a better understanding of, what is the expectation from a good manufacturing practices standpoint of each of these roles. And there are some really super easy ways to set this up for yourself in terms of record keeping and in terms of you holding multiple roles. So it's a simple process. It's record keeping. We've talked about record keeping lots, and record keeping truly is going to be the key to running a successful business in a natural health environment or in a cosmetic environment. You need to be good at keeping your records straight. And recording information, really. That's all it is. It's not that you're doing anything different except checking a box that says, yes, I cleaned my workspace with an alcohol sanitizer prior to starting my formulation for the day. Yes, I checked that. Yes, when I was done making my formulation, I cleaned all my equipment and I recalibrated my scale and I put it all away. Checked off. So it's creating the documentation once and having it there for the long haul. And those are critical things to running a business like this specifically. Now, for anybody that's new here, and I know we have a few new people who may not have seen all my other videos that I've done, but I have 23 years of regulatory and licensing framework experience. So I worked for many years in Alberta's gas and oil industry. And through that career, I actually developed good manufacturing practices and standard operating procedures for multiple gas and oil companies. And I went on to further train and develop their land administration departments. And so I have a lot of experience with record keeping and with why it's important, because I've seen the benefits of good record keeping. I've seen, a pipeline leak, let's say, which is a terrible thing to see. But if you have proper record keeping and you can get guys to the ground quick, you can get on it and you can fix it. You also have proper record keeping of the environmental assessment before, so you know what to bring that environmental reclamation back to after. Everything boils down to, in a structured environment, everything boils down to good record keeping, and that's really what good manufacturing practices is about. So I'm just going to run through this list really quick because I only have a few minutes left. I'm trying to keep these videos to 15 minutes or less because I really love sharing information with you guys and teaching you guys from my own personal experience and training in the past. And so I can tend to go on and on about it. But we're just going to run through these really quick. So we've covered everything up to equipment. So personnel, the roles that are responsible for personnel are manufacturing, packaging, labeling, importing, and distributing. Sanitation program, again, straight across the board. Every single role is responsible for keeping a sanitation record. Now when we get into the operations, what is required in terms of an SOP? So we need manufacturing SOPs, packaging SOPs, labeling SOPs, importing SOPs, and distributing SOPs. That's standard operating procedures for those of you who don't know that, and we will get into those another time. That's basically the day-to-day running and processes of your business. Recall notices, same thing. All 5 roles are affected and expected to keep proper documentation. Quality assurance, all 5 roles again. We get into stability, and that is only manufacturing or importing. And the rules and regulations are slightly different for importing, and that is like an entire video lesson on its own. And I'm not even going to go there today, but it is really, it's a life of its own. And so long as you're meeting, equivalent requirements to Health Canada from whatever country you're importing from, then it's pretty simple, a pretty simple process to move through. Then we get into records. So manufacturing requires records. Packaging requires the packager records. Importers require the importing records. Distributors require the distributors' records. Most distributors don't know that. And then records maintenance is a joint responsibility between all 5 roles. So that's all I'm going to go into for today. I am going to, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, this is my handy dandy little chart that I pulled off of Health Canada's website. It's actually super useful, even just to keep you on track from a point form talking perspective. It's very useful. And I will share that document with you guys in the group. Thank you guys all for joining me, for watching me, for being part of this group. Like, I mean, my whole dream is to have a group of Canadian makers and small businesses and solopreneurs, and to help each other and support each other and grow natural health and cosmetics in Canada and fill Canadian shelves with Canadian products. Because at the end of the day, Canada has an amazing range of education and of makers, and yet we have very few products on shelves. And I think that the largest, red tape block for this is the regulation and the fear and the overwhelm of licensing and of moving in that direction. And so I really hope that, me coming on and teaching you guys some of this stuff and walking you through some of it, I really hope that's, the incentive you need to push through and to start taking, the individual baby steps to get there, to product license, to market shelves. Anyhow, my whole big thing is maker to market. I am really glad you guys are joining me on the journey, and we will chat with you guys all tomorrow. Tomorrow's kind of a weird day because we are doing, I am going to do my 15-minute live in the morning at 11 a.m. MST, and then I will get on for my 1 o'clock Q&A in the afternoon. I want to keep them kind of separate so I can stay focused in both areas. If you guys have questions for tomorrow's Q&A, please drop them in the form. For the new people in the group, there is a form pinned under announcements, and it's a Google form, so you can drop your questions in there, and I will address them Thursdays during my Q&A live. If I don't have a bunch of questions to answer, I kind of pick a topic and just roll with it. Tomorrow's topic, as it stands right now, is going to be soap maker calculations and soap record keeping. So send me your questions and I will get to those as well. And I hope you guys all have a great afternoon. Chat with you soon. Bye now.